Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Prescott High School eSports coach Robyn Bryce. She'll speak about the program's success, what new games were added this season, and break down the training associated with the sport. We'll then be joined by Yavapai College men's basketball coach Jay Joyner. He'll speak about his coaching career, what attracted him to the job, and how he plans to recruit locally. And when we return from break, we'll be joined by Mingus Union boys soccer coach David Glick. He'll talk about his second season coaching the program, how he plans to develop his sophomore goalie, and preview their next game on January 12th. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Mingus Union High School boys soccer coach Dave Glick. Coach Glick, welcome onto the show.
Thank you for having me, Phil. It's great to be here.
Well, we're very happy to have you, Coach. The Marauders season is currently underway. The program is 2-2 up until this point in the season. You guys started off the season with a win against Greenway 2-0 and a nice shutout to start the year. Just in general, Coach, it's your second year coaching the program. How you feeling in year two? How's the season going so far?
I think it's going really well. I think it's going a lot better than last year. It's just an overall stronger program. I feel much more comfortable this year being in my second year. And so I feel like I've worked into it a lot quicker and better this year. So it's good. Very good.
What would you say, Coach, that you've learned from that first year going into this year? I mean, what did that COVID year teach you about coaching this program?
Expect the unexpected.
I bet.
That's what it really came down to last year. There were so many variables that we had last year. We had an on-again, off-again AIA program, lots of different issues going on, lots of issues grade-wise with student players that they weren't used to having to do schoolwork at home. That's a huge responsibility to take on, and so there were issues that stemmed from that as well.
Well, thankfully, hopefully not too many issues this season. Like I said, the Marauders 2-2 on the season so far up until this point. The program also got an opportunity to compete in the Bodie Larson Celebration Classic that happened towards the end of December. So recently, you guys were in that tournament. 2-2 in that one as well. How did you feel you guys did in the tournament? Anybody you want to spotlight who played well? Who did you guys face? How did that tournament go?
I thought it went really well overall. We definitely had adversity in that tournament. For example, in our second game in the morning, we were playing on 12 hours of rest and the other team was playing on a full week's rest. And so that was, it was a little bit challenging there. We found ourselves playing some very good teams. There was no slouchers in that tournament. So at least that we played, it was really good. Being a 2-2 overall, we won the game on Thursday morning. And then of course we played a more difficult team in the afternoon. They were a 3A team, but they were a private Christian school, and they were very, very well coached, and they had very good players. And so it was a good game overall. A 1-0 loss. We had a little bit of a defensive issue. We were just indecisive at the time defensively, and that was how the goal got scored. Other than that, we competed very well in that game. A couple of players I'd like to highlight. So in game one of that day, we ended up in a tie, 1-1 tie. And our goalkeeper, who's a sophomore, Yair Hernandez, performed extremely admirably over the entire course of the tournament. But in this particular game, he had to go into PKs. So, which he explained to me afterward, that was the first time he'd ever won on PKs. And that was amazing. We ended up with a 8 PK shootout. He saved 2 of those. And it was a sight to see. It was amazing. And I told him later on that it was actually my first time that I'd ever won a game like that too, at least at this level, on a competitive level. It was great.
Very cool. And of course, what a great early challenge for your sophomore goalie. We'll talk a little bit about Yair and just a little bit more specifically about he's been developing. But Coach, I want to talk, how did you guys get involved with that tournament, the Bodie Larson tournament, where you guys emailed? Is it a tournament you've known about for a while? Did you guys participate in it? Obviously, you didn't participate in it last year. So how do you go about picking tournaments, I guess, at this point?
So my daughter played her 4 years at Mingus, and they went to a tournament every year in December. And last year I knew that the tournament wasn't being held because of COVID. So this year I got right on it as soon as I found out about it. And I emailed the tournament director and told him that we would like to participate. So that was the beginning of that. And we stayed in touch, and we got our schedule, and we participated. It was a matter of finding transportation, figuring that out. Were we going to get down there by bus? Were we going to get down there? Was each player going to be responsible for their own transportation? So we worked it out. We got a bus every day. The transportation department was amazingly cooperative. I mean, they were so good. Hats off to the transportation department in Mingus. Seriously, they were amazing. So, yeah.
Well, I want to ask, Coach, I mean, obviously you're not going to see really any of the teams you played in the tournament during the regular season, or even, maybe into the playoffs. But, how do these midseason tournaments help you as a coach and help your team going forward when we're getting close to start of region play, where you're going to be seeing Flagstaff and Bradshaw and Coconino? I mean, how does that midseason tournament help you guys going forward? I'm
going to sum it up in one of my players and what he said. He says, that tournament actually showed us that we're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
That is the one component that you guys need. I mean, you guys have the skills. You guys are an amazing team. You just need more confidence in yourselves and in your team. And that was a key component that we needed. And I think that we got that from the tournament.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that team, Coach. Obviously, you return junior Luis Escueda, who is making some solid strides this season. According to Max Preps, he's matched his goal total this year from last season already, and we're not even done with the year yet. How do you plan to further his development, Coach? He's got one more year next year. He'll be one of your returners. We'll talk about the returners here in a little bit, but what have you liked from Luis this season?
He has a lot of confidence on the field, and it's amazing to watch him play, because it's not cockiness. It's just confidence. He has confidence in himself. He has confidence in his players. And a funny story about one of the games, I believe it was the first game, and it was the game winner. He says, "Coach, I need a break. I need a break." This is like at the end of the first half, right? He's like running around. He's one of our center Ds. And he says, "Coach, I need a break." I was like, "Okay, we'll get you subbed out in a minute." So the next thing I know, he's behind the halfway line at like the 40. He receives the ball. He takes the ball up 20 yards and takes a shot at like 45-ish yards out and gets it in the net.
Nails it.
I'm like, "Are you serious? You need a break, and then you go score a goal? All right." You're getting.
I would have turned to you and said, "Okay, Coach, did I get a break now? I just made a goal from about 40 yards out. Do I get one now?"
Yeah, it was hilarious. That was good stuff.
But he's along with Luis, of course. You return a big class of seniors. Carlos Zuniga is one. Jaden Bazile is another guy. They've both been performing solidly offensively this season. Coach, in your second year this year, I mean, how much did you rely on that senior class last year, and how much have you been relying on him this year?
So last year's junior class being this year's senior class,
right?
They were huge. So I coached almost all these players as freshmen on JV 3 years ago, which was, in itself, to be coaching them a third year is really, really cool. And they're huge. They're a solid team together. They've really become good friends on and off the field. And it's amazing to see those relationships take place and form, get stronger and stronger and stronger, because that's really what it takes to be successful on the field. And so all of them together, they're a very, very solid team. So it's great to see them. Absolutely.
Well, taking a look at next season, Coach, I mean, I know we're still in the midst of this season right now, but some of the returners you'll get next season, obviously, your leading scorer, Luis Escueda, will be back. Brandon Valenzuela is another guy that'll be back. Wyatt Perales, who I know was huge last season for you guys, he'll be back next season as well. Who else can we look forward to seeing next year? We'll talk about your goalie here in a little bit, but I mean, who else should we keep an eye on?
We have a lot of solid players coming up who are juniors this year and will be seniors next year. And I want to mention one who's actually a sophomore this year, and he made varsity as a freshman last year, and that's why it's brother Angel. He is going to be really big on the field in the next couple of years. He's getting starting time this year, but I am absolutely positive that he will be starting and playing in every minute of every game going forward, starting next year. The kid is amazing to watch on the field. He's confident in himself. He's confident in his teammates. He is, just overall, he's just an amazing player. Another one that we can see good stuff out of eventually is Malachi Crawford, who's also a junior this year. Brandon Valenzuela, who you've mentioned last year, got into varsity as a sophomore as well, and is making great strides on the field. Very, very good technical player. Lots and lots of good stuff. We are going to be losing 11 seniors this year.
Yeah.
So it'll be, next year might be a bit of a formation year, but fortunately we have some really strong juniors who will be stepping up into their senior year. And it's going to be, I'm looking forward to a good year with them too.
Well, Coach, you never know. Even in a transition year, you could be catching other schools in the area or even in the region who are also in a transition year. You never know. You never really know. But again, we're speaking with Mingus Union High School boys soccer coach David Glick. The Marauders 2-2 on the season so far. Their next game is coming up on January 12th against Peoria. We'll talk with Coach Glick about that in just a little bit. Coach, your goalie, Yair Hernandez, the sophomore. We talked a little bit about him throughout the interview. He's going to be back. He was back this season. He'll be back next season, hopefully for you. He's got 11 saves on the season. I know we were talking a little off the air. He wasn't necessarily the goalie starting on varsity this year, but you picked him out of a small crop of goalies down at the JV level and brought him up this season. So I want to ask, how has he embraced this role this year? You say he was able to get a big save in a PK game during that tournament. So I want to ask, Coach, what are you expecting from him going forward? What kind of player do you think he could really develop in? And what have you liked so far in his second year?
Well, I'm going to put it in the words of my goalkeeper coach, Chris Barrier, who said that he has the potential to be a really, really good goalkeeper. He has completely embraced this. He's, there's been some down moments, and there always is, it's an up and down type of thing. But overall, he has been accepted by the entire team as the goalkeeper. He is trusted by the entire team as the goalkeeper. And I can absolutely see him as the permanent varsity goalkeeper for the next 2.5 years.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's definitely looking good. Also, the JV team is looking pretty solid so far this year. 3 wins for the JV team. Anybody else we could see come up from the JV team into next year? I know, like you said, graduating 11 seniors, Coach, there's going to be a lot of holes open for some new talent.
Yes, absolutely. So there are several JV players that we'll probably bring up should we hopefully get into the state tournament this year. We are fully expecting to do that.
Good.
And so we have a few of them. We have Julian, gentleman named Julian. I'm struggling for his last name right now. I will get that for you here in a second.
No problem, Coach.
Esquier.
There we go.
Esquier is his name. And we're also looking at a junior right now, Ashton Hillberger. He is going to be expected to move up into the varsity role next year, as well as Hunter Peck, who is the JV coach's son. He's doing extremely well. As a matter of fact, we had invited him to participate in one of our games recently. And although he did not get a lot of playing time, you could tell that he is definitely fitting into that particular role. There are several others as well, but those are the 3 that I'd like to highlight at this point in time. So, Yep.
Coach, like I mentioned before we let you go, you've got a game coming up on January 12th against Peoria High School. Peoria has not lost a game yet this season. They're 2-0-1, so 2 wins, no losses, 1 tie. What are you expecting from the Panthers this time around, Coach?
Well, so last season we played them in our last game and we beat them. The score was like 7-0. They have some good players in there. They were lacking on their bench. And so it was kind of a struggle for them in the second half. And that's kind of when we broke it open. Granted, they're 2-1, but the teams that they played are not very strong teams that they had won against. And the one team that they played that they lost against was, it wasn't, I think of Mojave. Actually, they played, and they I think it was them.
Yeah, nice potentially a region team there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was a region team. And they lost 9-0 to Mojave. And so, if I remember my record correctly. So I'm expecting a good game with them, but I am expecting with the W to come out with a W on that game.
Well, like I mentioned, the Marauders' next game comes up on January 12th against Peoria High School. Coach Glick, thank you very much for coming on the program and talking to us about the men's soccer program at Mingus Union High School.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Prescott High School eSports coach Robyn Bryce right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical, Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
2 things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Cottonwood Parks and Recreation and Gettle's High Desert Mechanical. I am joined now by a familiar face of the program, though it's been a while since we've talked, Prescott High School eSports coach Robyn Bryce. Coach Bryce, welcome back onto the show.
Thank you, Philip. It's nice to be back as always.
Well, we're happy to have you. The last time you were on the show, we had a completely different background. I'm in a new set now. I've got this wonderful banner behind me. You've got great pink hair going on. For those of you who are listening on KVNA, go check out our YouTube feed for Coach Bryce's hair and also just the entire show as well. But Coach Bryce, I'm really happy that you're back on the show. There's been a lot going on with your esports program at Prescott High School since we spoke last year. So let's start. Let's start with last year. How did it go for you? How did you guys navigate COVID? How did just the season last year go for the program?
I thought we had an excellent season. We had really small numbers. We only had 3 students. They were our Super Smash Bros. Ultimate team, but they were super dedicated, showed up every day, played to win, and excellent leaders among that team as well. They were all coaches of each other as well as teammates. And so that was really great. And we worked hard together. We made it to the playoffs. So first time esports at Prescott High School made it to the playoffs. Unfortunately, we lost in the first round of the playoffs. But it was thrilling and exciting. Not only did my team celebrate it, but the athletic department in the school, celebrated us and our accomplishments. So, that was just awesome. And we're looking forward to doing it again. And even then some more this spring season with our upcoming season.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the upcoming spring season, of course. Coach, let's talk a little bit about that state competition where you guys got a chance to really compete against a few of the other schools that you don't normally see throughout the regular season. We will get a chance to speak a little bit more about some of the programs that you do face during the regular season, but I think you had mentioned you guys got a chance to take on Brophy during the playoffs last year. Can we just talk about, getting a chance to go to the playoffs? What was the atmosphere like? Who did you guys also compete against? And how did the tournament specifically go?
Well, it was all online. We didn't travel anywhere. We didn't go anywhere. If you made it to the final round, they actually did have the final at, the college starts with an O and it's down in the valley and I can't think of it right now.
Is it Ottawa?
Yeah. I think you're right. It was at Ottawa College down in the Valley, at like a big arena kind of style. So that would have been cool to see that, but that's our goal for this year. It was exciting. Once we were just watching the scores that very last day, making sure that we made it. We had a pretty sweet seat most of the season. We sat like top 10 most of the season. And with the very last game of the season, we wound up losing to Brophy. Incredibly tough team. There's a handful of teams that went undefeated last year, and Brophy was one of them. And we tried really hard, but they just put up a really great battle. And that slipped us down to like the 12th or 13th spot. And so when we were seeded in the playoffs, we were seeded against a really tough team, one of the top teams, and they knocked us out first round. Unfortunately, I can't remember right now. I can look it up and get back to you on that one, but I can't remember who knocked us out that very first round. But it was all exciting. The sportsmanship of like the teams that we played against and my players was just incredible. There really wasn't any like mad dogging or smack talk or toxic environment. It was just really good. I really enjoyed this season. And as well as not only the players, the coaches and there's a Discord channel that's out there that all the coaches of the eSports talk on. And, it's just building bonds and stuff and answering questions and working with each other. The coaches the network is just really amazing. We just really compete and work with and play with a really great group of people statewide. And it's just awesome.
Have you been able to pick up any tips from other fellow coaches? You talk about that Discord server where you get a chance to kind of communicate with them. Have you picked up on anything?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we talk about on there, especially is, like how to set up practices, or what do you do if, kids can't compete, or, this coach can't make it today, and like rescheduling and stuff like that. So it's a lot of like kind of organizational coaching tips, like right now, at least that I'm seeking, that I'm being drawn to. I think much like most social media, what your interests are is what you're drawn to. And then as far as coaching tips, there's definitely like articles. They'll share articles and things like that, that we can read on our own and answer questions. And then also just a lot of meme and joke sharing on there as well, because, we need that.
Yes, you got to keep it light, especially when dealing with high school esports, a industry that is really, really starting to peek its head around to the professional circuit. I mean, obviously, you have your 2K leagues for the basketball programs. You've got your Madden leagues as well. I mean, there's so many outlets for esports right now. And as somebody who does lean more on the traditional side of sports, I'm a big fan of anybody competing in anything. I'm trying to get a chess coach on the show here soon, but we'll talk a little bit about chess. Hopefully that'll go through. But esports is really, really starting to come into the fold here, and it's really starting to pick up a lot of ground, especially here in northern Arizona. Obviously, Prescott's got a program. There's some rumors I heard that Bradshaw might be adding a program. I think Camp Verde has an esports program that's starting to get picked up. Yavapai College has started one. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the opportunities here a little bit later in the show. But Coach, during tournament, I think you had mentioned that you guys were competing in Super Smash Brothers, correct? Because your Smash team at one point last season was ranked 6th in the state. Yep. Can we talk a little bit about that team in general? And I mean, how do they compete? I mean, who are the characters they play as? I mean, how does that break down?
They definitely don't play as Ness. I can tell you that. That's definitely something that I have learned. Well, I thought Ness was adorable. Apparently that is not someone you play with in Super Smash Bros. Gotcha. But some of the characters, my one player really likes to play as Joker, and he's got a lot of finesse when it comes to that. And then some of the other characters that they use, they do a lot of rotations, but they really do a lot of practice with choosing a good character that they like as a base character. But then also during practice, we work with playing with other characters and how do we like counter those characters, or if that character is played, who would be a better character to play, against that character. So we talk about those kind of strategies. And my students, I have a Michael Karate. I have who goes by Friday. I have Manti Farnsworth, who goes by Chocolate Pie. And I have Chris Smith, and his handle escapes me at the moment. But Manti is a senior this year, and Chris and Michael are both sophomores. So I have a mixed team, and they work really well together. It's the only 3 kids that I have on that team, but they were just so amazing, especially the newcomers, Chris and Michael. I had Manti last year on my team. He was my lone Smash player. So he would forfeit pretty much every game, but he would go in and the coaches would let him play. And so it was really great for me to have the senior and have teammates that were really dedicated and a good squad, because he deserves that. And it was really awesome. Those two younger players really helped coach him and coach each other, and give advice to the players, because, once again, I'm an old head and I only play so many games. I just resurrected my Nintendo Wii. I'm more of like a Wii resort, like tennis, or like, that's kind of my speed, or like Dance Dance Revolution. So that's more where I do my thing. So it's really great to have those kind of players that really know what they're doing and that really want to be leaders on the team, because that just helps the program grow and helps every other player grow. No selfishness at all, just giving kids. And I'm just super appreciative of them.
I'll never forget when my grandma and grandpa got a Nintendo Wii back when they first came out, and we got a chance to play like Wii bowling and Wii baseball. That's about my speed as well. I play some of the sports games, but a lot of the multiplayer games are kind of lost on me because I didn't necessarily have like an Xbox or whatever. But Coach, you talk about adding 2 new players to the team this year, 2 sophomores. That's going to help you grow the program next year. I mean, how do you plan to continue their development? I mean, do you guys? We talk about Super Smash. Are they playing any other games? Are they? I know we'll talk a little bit about Nintendo Switch here in just a little bit, but are they competing in anything else?
Smash seems to be really right now the most popular. Where last year Rocket League was the most popular for my kids to compete in, Smash seems to be the most popular. Right now we're hosting open gyms on Mondays and Wednesdays where anybody can come and play. And the game that everybody wants to play is that Super Smash Bros. We have anywhere, depending on the day, anywhere from like 5 to 20 kids that'll show up, and we just kind of play tournaments. We have 2 TVs going, and we just have kids playing on other side, and they're just like battling against each other. So hopefully these are going to be some of my up and comer team members that are coming up. I do have students that ask about Rocket League and League of Legends. So hopefully we'll have a couple of those teams this year. The AIA allows us to play not only those games that I mentioned, but also Splatoon, FIFA, Madden, and Smite. So those are all the possible games that we could compete in at the AIA state level. But it's all based on student interest and what we have. So hopefully, like I said, some of those open gym players will convert to real players for me as the preseason starts the end of January, and then official season starts mid-February.
Okay, so we are getting very close to the start of season in mid-February. Like you said, open gyms Mondays and Wednesdays, correct?
Yes.
All right, come out and compete if you're interested in esports here at Prescott High School. Again, we're
right
speaking
after school.
or any school. Yeah, really. We are again speaking with Prescott High School esports coach Robyn Bryce. Coach, you talk about Splatoon. We had talked off air. That was kind of one of the newer games that have been added to the AIA catalog. Are there any that are on the horizon? Any that are in conversation? Have other games been added? Like you mentioned, FIFA and Madden, I know were the 2 big ones last year that were added. Any other that you've heard about that might be coming up?
Well, they added Splatoon this year to the roster, and I haven't heard any news of any more coming specifically, but Play VS, which is the platform that we work with that organizes all of the competitions and the brackets and everything, they're always teasing us with, and there's more coming. And they definitely have a clear partnership with Nintendo. So I definitely see on the rise possibly some more Nintendo, especially some Nintendo Switch games coming, like Splatoon or like Super Smash Bros. So we'll see. They keep it exciting, which is awesome. It's great for us because that keeps kids interested.
Well, speaking of Nintendo Switch, you told me off air that you guys were gifted a Nintendo Switch. Can we talk a little bit about how that entire process happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So through Play VS and Nintendo, through their partnership, they offered schools that sign up for either Splatoon or Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for the spring season. They gifted them a Nintendo Switch. So that was pretty awesome that it's on its way. It hasn't arrived yet. It'll arrive before season, and I'll give it to IT and have them do all their things that they're going to do with it. But I'm really grateful. I wound up actually buying myself a Switch over the course of the season because, I needed it. I had to get in and see what my kids were doing. So now I have a Switch, and now the school will have a Switch, as well as my players, just like, gear that they like. My players bring their own gear, their own little pro paddles and things like that. That make it comfortable for them to play. And that's perfectly legit. As long as, they can sign on with their names and their accounts and everything like that, they absolutely can use their own gear. So we just have it's growing. The program is just growing all the time. I'm just really excited about that.
Well, that's great to hear, Coach. I mean, obviously, like I mentioned, I'm more of a traditional sports kind of guy, but seeing kids compete in anything is always great. Like I said, I mean, we're trying to really branch out here on the show and cover as much as we can, because there are a lot of events and there are a lot of clubs that some kids just don't know about and don't have necessarily an opportunity to learn about or participate in. So, I mean, realistically, if football is not your thing, but you love Madden, or if playing basketball isn't your thing, or I'm sure there aren't too many opportunities to punch Pikachu in the face in Smash Brothers. So if you want those opportunities, I mean, eSports programs are going on around everywhere. So definitely check that out for anyone who might want to participate. Not necessarily if you attend Prescott High School. There are a few others around the state, including Yavapai College, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Coach, I want to ask, I know that right now there's probably a supply chain issue with that, but I'm curious, when are we going to get to the next gen consoles? I know the PlayStation 5 has been out for a little bit. The Xbox XS or G5 or whatever they're calling it now has been out for a little while. I know they're not necessarily readily available, but I'm curious, has there been conversations about that next gen gaming? And what about PC gaming?
Yeah, we definitely have like PC gaming. So games like League of Legends, is played on the PC. Right now, as far as I know, it's only PS4 that, we've been, for Madden and FIFA. But CBH, I'm not sure if we could use like a PS5 as long as we have like the Madden, the Madden 21 game or the Madden or the FIFA game. Play VS keeps their rules updated and they send coaches rules and things like that. We don't really have anybody that competes in Madden or FIFA, so I haven't really kept up too much on like how, those are going. But, when talking with Play VS after I got the Switch, I did mention to them that, hey, if this program happens to pop up, for PlayStation or things like that, if they're offering these same kind of things, please let us know. And they did hint that there are things like that on the horizon. So possibly whether it's a PS4 or, you said next gen game PS5, woo-hoo, those are beautiful. If you haven't seen one yet, ooh, is it slick? Took months to get in, but once it came in, man, that thing is slick. And, maybe we'll have that as part of our eSports program and the kids will get to compete on those as well. Whatever my kids want to compete on, we definitely have the support to make it happen. Whether it's through our athletic department or through private donations, we definitely have the support in our school to make whatever my kids want to do happen. So I really appreciate that. I know in speaking with a lot of those coaches that I talked about on the Discord channel, they don't have that. They battle a lot with many of their admin. Some of their teachers and admin don't understand what eSports is or how important it is and things like that. So, or how it's on the rise, they just think it's game playing. So I hear a lot of sad stories in that they don't have the support that we have here. So I am eternally grateful to my school, my program, my athletic director, Mrs. Townsend, for being so forward thinking and so supportive. And the teachers here as well are super supportive and always surprised when they're like, eSports, we have eSports. That's really cool. So good vibes here for sure.
Oh, definitely. And I've obviously spoken to a lot of schools and I've gotten a lot of great conversations with a lot of representatives from Prescott High School. So yes, I agree fully. Prescott, one of many very great high schools here in the state of Arizona. I want to ask just a little bit here. I brought up the next gen because I know there's going to be a point where they stop producing the Madden and FIFA games for the previous gen consoles, but I'm sure we're still a few years away from that. But anyway, Coach, you talked about training. Can we talk just a little bit about some of the training that you kind of hand off to your students? Is it more of a, hey, here's the next game we're going to be doing. Why don't you guys try to play that at home? Or, we're going to try to focus on this on practice. So I guess my question basically boils down to, Coach, is what does practice kind of look like for you guys?
So whenever we have practice, like the kids show up, we usually have a little bit of a warm up period. And the students and I will discuss strategy, just like game film, we'll talk about like, how did last game go? Where did we think our weak points are? Where did we think we did well? What do we think we need to do, based on the critique? Because they give each other critique after every game. Like I said, these kids are really great with their feedback with each other. And so I kind of allow them to drive the bus as far as that goes, because, I'm a pretty noob myself. I'm not an awesome Super Smash Bros. I freak out whenever I fall off the platform. So, I'm just like, and like I said, I use Nest, I'm always just just over and over again, just spamming. So I'm not necessarily the best player to to come up with strategies, but through talking with the students, we come up with those strategies, and then then we'll work on those like base skills. We'll go into practice mode, into open mode, free play, and then they'll just kind of like beat up on each other and just practice the moves. One of the strategies that we'll use is we'll look at see who we're playing upcoming. We'll look for any game footage that might be of theirs on YouTube, as well as we look at their icon character, giving something away. We look at their icon character and play BS. And so like if it shows, whatever kind of character we think, oh, maybe this is someone that they like to use. And so we'll also add that as part of our preparation. Now it could also be like like a smurfing tactic, but you know what I mean? Like a divergent tactic where they're trying to, say that they're one thing and, they're actually going to compete as something else. And you can switch characters during gameplay as well as you inform the other players that you're switching characters between rounds. But those are some of the strategies that we use, and we work on offensive and defensive moves with each character. How would we defend against this character's, brute force, or how would we defend against this character's speed, or how can you use this character's fighting style to your advantage? And so those are kind of some of the things that we that work on in practice. But it's a lot of gameplay. It's really a lot of open, free gameplay, tournament kind of play stuff that we do. With
like you said, you guys obviously take a look at some of the what the competition has done in the past. Like you said, it's very similar to what we see with a lot of traditional preparation for sports. It's hey, what's the game plan for this week? All right, let's start practicing. We'll start. This guy likes being this character. Okay. And so we need to find a counter, like you said. I hope you didn't give too much away, your strategy to finding out who likes who, we'll have to make sure we keep that one quiet. But it's a good strategy.
Everybody's listening to you, but hopefully nobody's listening.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah. Well, yeah, seriously. I think that's great, Coach. I know, again, the season 4 eSports for Prescott High School starts in mid-February. Open gyms will be going on here Mondays and Wednesdays. If you are a student at Prescott High School, or you're a parent or guardian of a student at Prescott High School and you think they'd be interested in esports, go check it out. I've talked with Coach Bryce a few times. She's very nice. Her hair's a little eccentric, but she's a very, very nice lady. You guys are still growing the program. You'll be welcoming back 2 sophomores who will be juniors next season. So hopefully these open gyms will be a success for your program and see a few more kids participating in esports. Coach Bryce, 2 more things before we let you go. Just real quickly, you don't need any prior experience with any of the games to participate in esports, correct?
Not at all. No prior experience needed.
Okay, cool. And Yavapai College, like we talked about, I want to talk just kind of briefly here about some of the after high school opportunities. I went to Grand Canyon University. I can tell you firsthand, they've got a great esports program. I know there are other colleges, not only in Arizona, but outside of the state of Arizona that have an esports program. But one of our local colleges in Prescott, Yavapai College, has an esports program. You and I were talking a little bit about that during the interview. What kind of opportunities does that open up for your kids? I know you had said you have a student who's thinking about going to Yavapai College, but I mean, scholarship opportunities are very big right now for esports. What kind of opportunities does Yavapai College having an esports program really open up for these kids here in the area?
Yavapai is super interested in supporting their esports program and super interested in getting butts in seats. So they're actively recruiting players. So, I heard you mention that Bradshaw is getting into it and maybe some other local schools. And I think that that's great because these are opportunities for our students to get a quality education, because Yavapai College really is great. Get a quality education, be a part of a team, be a part of a community, and get all or some of that school paid for. Yavapai College's esports lab is amazing. It was built with support from Grand Canyon University with, influence and things like that. They got themselves a new coach this year. They've been searching for that coach. They got their coach this year, and they're really actively recruiting. And I think that it's a wonderful opportunity for my students, especially as Yavapai College now has the opportunity to offer 4-year degrees. Excuse me. I think that's great. A kid can go to Yavapai College, play esports, stay local, support the local community, stay with their family, and get a great education while they're doing it, all while being an athlete. I think that's great.
A friend of mine who I went to Grand Canyon University with is currently on the Lakers 2K League team. He was drafted by the Pacers a couple of years ago. So there are opportunities abound here in esports, an industry that is slowly growing bigger and bigger each and every year. Prescott High School esports coach Robyn Bryce, thank you very much for stopping by and getting us caught up on your program.
Thank you so much, Philip. I appreciate being on. I'll be on anytime for sure.
Of course. Well, we'll have to touch base again, Coach, when we get closer to the start of the season. Again, mid-February is when the season starts. Open gyms are going on right now, Mondays and Wednesdays at Prescott High School. Contact Coach Bryce if you are interested as a student or if you know a student who would be. Again, Coach Bryce, best of luck going forward on the season. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk to the new men's basketball coach for Yavapai College, Jay Joyner, right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical, Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by the new head coach of Yavapai College's men's basketball program, Coach Jay Joyner. Coach Joyner, welcome on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're very happy to have you, Coach. We'll talk a little bit about your coaching background, but you do come in with a lot of coaching experience. But first and foremost, you got an opportunity to play basketball at your alma mater, South Carolina State. One of the big highlights there for you, participating in the 1996 NCAA tournament. I believe South Carolina State was a 15 seed that year. You also got an opportunity to play overseas at Liga ACB, which is in Spain. Coach, I know it was probably incredible to get an opportunity to participate in the NCAA tournament, especially around that time in 1996. But I want to ask, your time in Europe, what was that experience like for you? Was it any kind of culture shock? What was it like playing basketball in Spain?
Well, Spain was phenomenal. Anytime you could go across the water and experience a totally different culture is always great. I'm forever grateful to the president, Roberto, for giving me that, opportunity. But it's a long time ago as well. So, my memory's a little sketchy, but the people were great to me. And, it's 2021 now.
No, I know, of course.
My playing days are long gone.
Yes. And when you did decide to hang it up, you got an opportunity to start your coaching career with Centennial High School in Tennessee, which led you to your first collegiate coaching job at Tennessee State, eventually leading you to your first head coaching job at Columbia State Community College. So, Coach, I'd love to ask, once you got done playing, what kind of sparked that interest in coaching?
Well, I was in the Canary Islands playing over in Spain, and I want to say it was second to the last game of the regular season. And, at 27, I believe, 27, I was just sitting in the arena after everybody had left, trying to figure out what's next for me. I knew I wanted to stay around the game of basketball. And as soon as I got back to the States, I sat down with some college coaches and, they helped me navigate my way onto the sideline on the collegiate level.
Coach, in those early years, especially coaching in the high school realm and then going to community college, and also you've had a couple stints with the university. Obviously, you're coming from a university in your coaching career. I want to ask, what did those early sort of coaching opportunities do for your career going forward? How did it instill confidence in you as a coach? What did you learn early on? You've got an extensive resume with a lot of different programs and at many different levels. So, what did those early coaching years teach you about the job?
Well, my first experience, I was a volunteer assistant at Centennial High School with the head coach, Brian Kelly, a phenomenal guy. And, I was just, from day one, I was a sponge. A lot of times when people talk all the time, I mean, how could they how could they actually be listening to everything? So a great coach of mine told me, when you get into business, don't talk a lot, just be a sponge and try to, learn as much as possible. So, from Centennial all the way up until now, I still, try to be a sponge as much as possible.
Coach, what would you say is your coaching philosophy?
Get really good players.
Okay.
Because, great players make great coaches. Okay? Make no mistake about that. If the players are not getting the job done, the coach is not getting the job done. So I've been afforded with having a lot of great coaches by my side throughout this journey. I've been afforded, to be able to coach a lot of great players. So without the players, without the coach, there is no Coach Joyner.
Yeah. Is there any kind of specific coach or person who influenced your coaching career early on? You obviously talk about your first coach, Brian Kelly. Is there anybody else that you kind of look to?
Well, my college coach that I played for at South Carolina State, Cy Alexander, he gave me my first opportunity on a Division I level. And, in the past, I've leaned on him quite a bit. My high school coach, Jack Agostino, I've leaned on him quite a bit. But I just try to watch a ton of film and just continue to learn the game.
What about when you look at programs? Is there any kind of collegiate program that you look to, or any kind of professional program that you would like, at least now in the present, Yavapai College to kind of be, looked at it in the same light? Is there any kind of program that you look to where you go, this is the way I want to run my team?
Well, I've coached at Rutgers, I've coached at Tennessee State, I coached at North Carolina A&T. I've been around the game long enough to really see a lot of basketball, so to speak. I can't necessarily say there's one program out there in the country that I want my program to resemble, but I'm going to coach the guys the right way. We're going to play defense and get after it. So I know you're looking for a specific coach, a specific program, but I'm just really excited to be in Prescott, and starting up a brand new program at Yavapai is huge for me.
Well, we will talk a little bit about, just building up that program and some of your plans you have for Yavapai College. But you mentioned your time at Rutgers. You served as the director of player development. Coach, you're there for 2 seasons. You've kind of serving a different role when it comes to basketball operations. What did that teach you about the game of basketball? Did it grow your knowledge of the sport at all? I mean, just how did you approach that sort of different look of the sport when you took that position at Rutgers?
Well, a lot of people think director of player development means, we're going to develop the players on the court. That particular position was developing the student athletes, off the court. It had nothing to do with, getting the post players better, nothing to do with getting the guards better. It had everything to do with making sure the guys getting their academics, making sure they acquired the skills and knowledge to be able to go on into life and be successful. So those 2 years really helped me become a better coach off the court, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, obviously something you're going to be bringing to Yavapai College. Like we mentioned, so much experience. You come from North Carolina A&T State University. Again, we are speaking with the new Yavapai College men's basketball coach, Jay Joyner. Like I mentioned, Coach, you season's going to kick off in 2022, 2023. We're getting a revitalization of the program. You come to the program more recently from North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina. During his time, Coach Joyner coached the team from 2016 to 2020. He'll turn the program around with the NCAA's second best single season improvement, 3 wins to 20 wins and consecutive winning seasons for the first time since 1993, along with a few playoff appearances as well. Coach, what attracted you to the job at Yavapai College? Are you familiar at all with the Prescott area before taking the position? Have you gotten a chance to come visit Arizona in general? And just, what brought you here?
Well, it's funny. I've been trying to get to Arizona since 2009. Okay. I met a good friend of mine, Anthony Ray, down in Phoenix back in 2009. Recruited a phenomenal talent out of Phoenix, Marcus Rupel, to my community college in Tennessee. And ever since then, I told Anthony Ray, hey, listen, I got to get out to Arizona. And with me being in transition, from North Carolina A&T, looking for my next, coaching opportunity, Anthony Ray reached out to me and asked me would I be interested in, coaching a junior college out in Arizona. And, I had a chuckle about it because he knows just as well as I know I've been trying to get out here. So, taking this opportunity was a no-brainer for me.
Okay. What specifically about Arizona, Coach, made you want to come over here?
It's just I fell in love with, when you're an East Coast guy and you grow up with just the green trees, I just fell in love with, the brown mountains and just the different scenery out here.
How interesting. I'm a West Coast guy and I'm trying to go out East at some point. I've only been to the East Coast one time or twice, I should say. And it was once for a wedding and then once when I was 8. So for me, the desert is very normal territory for me. But interesting perspective, Coach, coming over from the East Coast. I'll tell you what, we got some beautiful trees up here in the Prescott area if you want to go check those out as well. But we're happy to have you, Coach. Like I mentioned, you carry such a great reputation and such an incredible record of what you were able to accomplish with North Carolina A&T State University. Like I mentioned, you enter a program that hasn't competed in a long time. The last time Yavapai College had men's and women's basketball was the 2010-2011 season. How do you approach building this program from the ground up, Coach? I mean, obviously there's a little bit of a foundation there. People are familiar. There used to be a program, but realistically, this is a brand new program. So how do you approach kind of getting the name out about Yavapai College?
Well, number one, Yavapai, college has rich tradition, right? Even back on the East Coast, people know about the college, believe it or not. So, I have this, rich tradition behind me, and you take it one step at a time. I mean, you don't rush into it. I've built programs before. This will be no different. You have to, one, identify the right players. Okay, you can't just load up on talent and expect to just automatically win, because then you have to be able to mesh the talent as well. So, recruiting the right individuals is critical when you're starting a brand new program. The administration, Dr. Ryan, Vice President Jenkins, Athletic Director Clifford, has believed in me. And, I can't let them down. So, I'm excited to be here. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm definitely going to put the product out there on the floor that, the entire community is going to be proud of.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that recruitment, Coach. How do you approach recruiting players in general? And what is your experience? With recruiting players, do you have anything that, you got any kind of tips of the trade or anything that you kind of utilize when you're recruiting a player out to your school?
Well, I think it's all about relationships. I think my experience speaks for itself, as a coach. But in this day and time, you got to be able to connect with the players. Okay, if you don't connect with the players, you're not going to be successful. So, one is identifying the right talent, and then the hardest part is, making that connection and getting them to buy into Yavapai, basketball. So. It's not an easy process, but, I'm definitely built for the job. And trust me, I'm going to put the product out there for the entire community to be excited about.
Well, what about that local talent, Coach? You've got two great schools to pull from directly out of Bradshaw Mountain and Prescott. You go a little bit over the mountain. You've got Mingus Union. You've got Camp Verde, you've got Sedona High School. You go a little further up, you got Flagstaff, Coconino, Chino Valley is also in that area, Wickenburg, Baghdad, Mayer. There's a lot of really great local talent throughout Yavapai County and Coconino County and just this northern part of the state in general. How important is it to you to focus on some of that local talent? I know not everybody who participates at Yavapai College is from the area, but how important is it to you to kind of build those relationships with the local schools, the local coaches, and sort of recruit some of those kids to come play at Yavapai College before they finish out their basketball career or possibly go on to the next thing?
Well, I think recruiting your region is very important. Recruiting your state is just as important. I'm not going to have an entire roster of high school, players. I'm going to have a mixture of, JC transfers, D1 transfers, as well as high school talent. I'm going to be in everyone's gym as much as possible to show my face. Okay. And, it gets a little tricky with, junior college recruiting because a lot of student athletes are waiting for the D1s to show up. As a junior college head coach, I understand the game, right? I understand how it works. So all I can do is continue to, put offers out there, show my face at games, introduce myself to parents, introduce myself to, coaches, and let them know that anything that they need from me, I'm willing to, be there for them. And hopefully with cultivating new relationships up here in Northern Arizona, it's going to be successful for Yavapai basketball.
Well, again, the basketball season for the Yavapai College men's and women's teams takes place 2022-2023 season. We're getting very close to the start of basketball. I know Coach Joyner is excited to get his career started at Yavapai College. Again, we are speaking with Yavapai College's men's basketball coach, Jay Joyner. Coach Joyner, welcome to the area. Congratulations on the new job. We look forward to seeing what you accomplish with the Rough Riders going forward. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck, Coach. Thank you for taking the time.
I appreciate you. Once again, thanks for having me.
Of course. That's going to do it for this week's show. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the program this week. I am your host, Philip Katafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.